saying "Showtime" just live, it takes me off my it pushes me off my X,
I'm
and
sorry.
it's like, "Oh, no jokes, man. Knock it off with the joke." Okay, so John, I had
Yes.
an interesting couple of conversations in the last week or so, including one this morning, and it points to do you have you if you I'm sure you know this even if you've never heard of the name before, but have you ever heard of the theory of constraints?
Yes.
Right. So the theory of constraint, exactly, right? Basically, for anyone who hasn't heard of it, and you actually will understand it intuitively. It's just that someone actually gave it a name 20, 30 years ago and wrote a book called, what was that book called? The Goal, I think it's Eli, Elihu,
Yeah.
somebody. So anyway, it works like this. Almost any process can be broken down into kind of a flow. And this
Mhm.
any process, you driving to work, a customer coming in contact with you and ultimately buying something, producing a widget, delivering a service, whatever. So it goes in multiple, there are pieces of it. Now you can think of this as not necessarily a straight line from, raw material to X, or booting up your laptop to sending your email newsletter or whatever. But I don't think of it as a straight line. I find that doesn't work. It fails often enough so that people stop thinking about the theory of constraints. And I think that's what happened in this example from someone who called for advice this morning. Instead, think of it as one or more intersections,
Okay.
where almost like a parade intersection where multiple things are supposed to meet, two or more things or groups, or, you know, the baton twirlers and the musicians and the float are supposed to sort of like meet at one place and then move on together. And if one of them or two of them, but if anything other than all of them doesn't show up or isn't ready when they do show up, then that part of it breaks down. Now, the idea, of course, now that's pretty intuitive, right? The idea of theory of constraints is there's no point in making extra, triple, quadruple sure that the baton twirlers are ready and show up on time, or that the musicians are ready and show up on time if the float doesn't. There's no point in making the other parts of it more efficient where they can have greater throughput or better quality or whatever if you're ignoring the piece that makes everything else flow anyway. And it might not be a sexy part. It might not be an interesting part for you to work on. But and if there's no point in optimizing any part of a system unless it's the part that needs optimizing next. Basically, is what it means. So here's the example from this morning. I'm talking to this uh, gentleman. He's working with a client in the Middle East, and I don't want to name any names. He's contacting me for advice because he's sending emails to a cold email list. He was told that it was a warm email list. We just say people signed up, but it turns out it's like, no, these people are just sort of plucked. Names and email addresses are plucked and then sort of put in a list. Here's our list, whatever. So his open rate is in like the mid 20s, and the click through rate is in the high teens. And he's contacting me and he's saying, like, mid 20s is actually decent, right? It's not fabulous, but it's decent when you're sending to people who have never agreed to hear from you.
Yeah.
And 18% click through rate, which is what he had, is really good for any kind of mailing. But he said they're clicking through, but nobody is booking an appointment. And I said, so what service are you using for the book the appointments? And he says Calendly, which is probably like, I mean, I think Calendly just hit like $1 billion valuation. Like everybody uses Calendly now.
Yeah, they're doing pretty good.
And I said, and what's on the Calendly page? And he said, well, it's a Calendly page. You can book an appointment with an open slot. You pick a date, whatever. I said, no, like what copywriting has gone into the Calendly page itself? Because
I need
Calendly
more
lets you like
copywriting.
write your whole thing. They had nothing.
Yeah.
So I sent him examples of, if you're going to book time with me, and it's everything that's written there is meant to assure you that this is a good idea, that the session is going to be all about you, which it is. And that basically it's one more touch point because there's a little gap, a little bit of friction between landing on a calendar page and deciding to book on somebody's calendar.
Right.
So I said, well, we have to stop right here. I mean, there's no point in boosting your open rate and no point in increasing click-throughs if you're going to drop people and just leave them stranded on the booking page. The booking page is what needs to work next.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that a 25% open rate is the best you could aim for, or that 18% click through is, can't be improved. I'm saying there's literally no point in increasing the amount of traffic to a page where 0% have decided to book an appointment. But what happens is you end up, especially if you're dealing with sort of marketing folks, is there are silos. Him writing the emails and they give him a Calendly link and he puts it in the email. That's the equivalent of him getting something and then throwing it over a high fence and hoping that the people on the other side of the fence know what they're doing and they've taken all of this into account. And they hadn't. So it's a classic. You don't often have someone just drop in your lap a theory of constraints, like, classic example. But that's exactly what this was. It's like, do not spend 1 second trying to improve that open rate or that click-through rate. The very next thing, and the only thing that should be worked on, is convincing someone who lands on that Calendly page, no matter how they get there, email or whatever, to actually take that little next step and book an appointment. Because that's a big deal, booking an appointment.
Huge deal.
Huge, right? That's a psychological barrier. A psychological barrier to get someone to open your mail is, it's not easy, but it's low. And a psychological barrier to get them to click through to something is even harder. But then getting them to do the appointment is the hardest part. And that's the part they had done, literally, this company had done no work on at all. Great example of the theory of constraints. It makes a lot of difference, not just what you fix, but the order in which you fix it. And yes, it's kind of a pain. Maybe, some people end up with like a very logical approach to this. Well, first we should completely optimize this, and then we'll completely optimize that, and then and I know it's messy to improve something, and then that, think of it as a bunch of faucets or a bunch of pipes that you can increase or decrease the flow on. And it's kind of a pain in the butt to like increase it a little bit over here and then watch as it flows. And then, we got a little bit here. We got to increase that one. We got to decrease that. And I know it's a pain in the butt to keep going back and forth and having sort of a overall or gestalt view of how the whole system is operating and all of the flow, sales funnel or whatever, instead of just, we will totally crush this problem. And then we will totally crush this problem. But the problem doesn't get fixed until everything can flow. So unless you're willing to wait a long time for some money to start coming in, you need to start fixing things incrementally in bits and then watching how it works and then fixing and adjusting and moving up and moving down until you've got a good flow going.
Right. And, Elizabeth was saying that, well, let me select it, but booking an appointment is a big deal. And Dr. V said, I know it is a pain.
He knows pain.
It certainly can be. It can be a huge pain point.
Yeah. And so I see this so often, but people will pay for Calendly. They'll try to push you with their webpage, or they'll push you with an email to go to the Calendly page. And then it's almost like you're on a bus or a train, and they've thought through, okay, here's where people are going to get on, and I'm going to take them there to just the one place. It's not like, it's not Uber. You can get out or stop whenever you want. Like, get on a train, you go and you get off and then you're just like, you're stranded in some little train station that has a sign telling you what town you're in, but you've never heard of it. And you're just there with no indication of what you should do next. So every Calendly page and every booking page from every service gives you an opportunity to create text for that web page. It's usually on the left-hand side, and it's underneath your picture, and it's your like little bit of landing page copy. You absolutely have to take advantage of that. Don't just like click through the defaults and leave nothing there. Just, I don't know if it's technically possible in English to leave nothing. I guess it is. Yeah, it implies you took something. But either way, don't just leave it blank and there's nothing for anyone to read or understand or for you to reinforce the reasoning and why they should click and make an appointment.
So Elizabeth said, marketing is like a big plumbing problem. You need things to flow.
And a plunger once in a while.
And Dr. V said you need a plunger.
There you go. There you go.
You guys are right on cue here today.
Yeah, they're on point. We should just have them do the show next time.
I know.
Yeah, they know everything anyway. Yeah.
Grab a coffee.
Yeah. So, what do you think? Tell me why I'm wrong.
You're not wrong.
We'll make up a reason why I'm right.
Make up a reason why you're right. No, I
It's
mean,
a mistake people make when they try to like
I
optimize.
think well, I think most people look at simple things and think, "Oh, I don't need copy for that. I don't need to do any special adjustments for that. I don't need to, optimize that in any way," and it couldn't be further from the truth. You need to really optimize everything all the way through the flow of whatever it is you're doing. But I think it's a good point to bring up because what is
Your
this? Dean's
prospects
wrong
don't know you.
Dean's wrong because he was born in Canada.
There you
Come
go.
on, that's not very nice.
Shameful.
Yeah, so to all our friend or all our Canadian friends,
Right? Your prospects don't know you. They
right?
don't
No,
care about you, and they do not ever, even if they know and care about you, they still don't owe you their attention.
right.
You owe them, and you owe them. It's the 90% rule, like we say, right? You need to go 90% of the way to communicating everything that needs to be communicated. You leave only the last little bit for someone to have to comprehend or internalize.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you have to be extraordinarily wordy to do that.
No, not at all.
In fact, sometimes it's quite the opposite. Sometimes you just need to be, "But I'm from Buffalo. I consider myself an honorary Canadian." Yeah, it's true. I could have swam across the lake too,
There you go.
gone to
I mean,
Canada.
even if all you had on a Calendly page was like, "Welcome to our Calendly page. We're excited to talk to you. Please book an appointment
Yeah,
convenient for your schedule." That's it. It's 3 sentences. It's like 21 words, 20 words. Like, it's nothing. But even that would be better than just leaving them there, dropping them off at a train station in the middle
right.
of nowhere with no town
There you
nearby
go.
and nothing to do.
Maybe I'll leave you a bottle of water just in case.
Yeah.
No, but I even have different types of appointments that people can book, and I go through the process of describing
Right.
what those are and why you should book one over another or whatever. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things that
Yeah.
they might find helpful.
And you might also want people to self-terminate at that point. Like, maybe they clicked all the way through, but then there's like you're finding that the people who are booking consultation appointments, like the free sales meeting kind of appointments with you, that they're like a high percentage of them are not qualified. And if they tend to be not qualified for one of two reasons, let's say a couple of reasons,
Mm,
that I mean, it's easy to come up with a couple right away, right? Like they don't have a budget or they don't have an immediate need.
right.
Then, that's a place to sort of, without saying you should F off out of here if you don't have a budget or an immediate need. So, you don't have to be aggressive, but you can be like assertive about it too. You
Right.
know, for clients, ready to solve this problem, ready and able to solve, ready and willing, or just ready to solve this problem, please book an appointment. I mean, it's a little bit pushy, but on the other hand, it's
It is.
expensive to have salespeople talk to people who are literally never going to buy. And so you need to terminate some of those people before they make an appointment.
Nothing wrong with setting some expectations. And,
No, not at all.
Dr. VS, can you put a video in Calendly?
No, unfortunately.
I didn't think so.
No.
I couldn't. I was trying to think that one through.
Calendly's whole business model basically is to provide just like really, really stripped down text web pages
Mm,
that cost them virtually nothing to deliver. You could put links that would then go out to YouTube or wherever, but it won't pull it in to the page and provide like click here to watch the video through your Calendly page. It's not a thing.
how about
No,
an
I don't think you can do an image of it.
image? Can
It's
you do
really
it?
stripped down,
It's really stripped down.
which just means that writing good copy is all the more important, or at least having something there.
Yeah. Somehow I think you might be able to put an image in. I don't think a video you can't do a video, but
Definitely not.
I think you can do an image that represents like a certain type of appointment. If
Yeah.
I remember correctly. I think you can do that.
Oh, you mean like an icon or thumbnail?
Yeah, like an icon of
Yeah,
thumb.
you can do that. You can have a thumbnail, and by default, your thumbnail is your own picture.
Right.
But you can put literally anything in there. It doesn't have to be a picture of you.
Yep.
But it's not very big. It's just a thumbnail picture.
Is there a better scheduling program?
Not really.
Well, I'm
Well,
playing around
what do
with
you
a
mean by
couple
better,
now.
right? You can use Acuity if you have a little more complex setup, or if you
Yeah.
always want like multiple people. If you want multiple events with multiple people able to sign up for them and all that kind of stuff, you can use something like Acuity. But
Yeah.
as far as like, I don't know, you end up with in a lot of these situations with a lot of these companies, you end up with one player that managed to get there first and they have the brand name. And people look at that Calendly URL and it's like, okay, I get it. It's Calendly. I've used this before. And that's a huge,
Mm.
huge trust factor for a lot of people, is that they recognize the name Calendly.
Right. That's true. Is a big
Right.
trust factor.
Just like there
There
are
are
lots of
people out
people
there.
who recognize QuickBooks. And so even though there are other great accounting software, cloud-based,
And
web-based,
Acuity, Schedule Once is
QuickBooks.
another one.
Yep,
Book Like a Boss, I think, got a lot of attention when it was an
yep.
AppSimo release. So there's a few different ones.
Yeah. The nice part
Um,
about Calendar is people don't think that, there's no money involved in setting an appointment.
right.
So the trust threshold can be a bit lower than it might be but again, a lot of people just won't click on links where they don't recognize the domain name, period. And so and some portion of your audience is going to be like that. And so you
Mhm.
use the best known service, not because you love them or because they are the best service, but just because they're the best known service.
Somebody
Why
asked,
lose a sale because someone doesn't recognize a really weird looking URL and says, might be sketchy,
I'm not sure
especially
who,
on a cold email.
yeah. I was gonna say, I'm not sure who asked this question. Is there another word besides terminate, selective and perceptive determination?
I don't understand the question.
I'm not sure I understand the question either.
Oh, well, anyway, the other way of phrasing it that's a bit nicer is you could have copy there to know so that people would know if they should self-include or self-exclude,
Yeah, right.
right? Like
So they can,
this is not for me. Oh,
yeah,
I thought this was
okay.
something, but it's really something else. That was it.
Sorry, Elizabeth. I didn't know that was you. Dr. V said that was
But
Elizabeth.
especially if you're, a small or very small business and you do consultations as part of your sales process, you don't want anyone booking a consultation if you knew ahead of time. Like all of us have been in a situation where we did consultations and we allow people to book 15 or 20 or even 30 minutes, just like book it. And that's part of our lead process. And a minute into it, this person is never going to be a client, but you're sort of obligated now to hang out while they talk about their problems and pretend you're interested in stuff. And so cutting down on that is not just a savings, a big time savings, it's a money savings, but it's also a quality of life savings. Who wants to spend
Mhm.
hours on hours a week talking to people that are, never going to be clients and are not supposed to be engaging with you in that kind of conversation?
Right. I mean,
If you met them at the supermarket and, you got 3 or 4 minutes of chatting, that's fine, but not an hour or half an hour of your day during the workday. So,
yeah,
yeah, you wanna exclude as much as you wanna include.
right. Because any language you can use to
Yeah.
help people to exclude themselves or realize that that's a good
Yeah.
opportunity or a bad opportunity for them is
I mean, if
important.
you haven't already done it as a part of your lead process to get them in, then you would, if you want people if you're finding you're spending too much time talking to people who are not ever gonna be clients, the easiest way to do it is just list the price. Honestly, like, for
Yeah.
$2,500 or more, my clients get A, B, C, and D. Well,
Mhm.
immediately, well, I'm not gonna spend $2,500. Nothing in A, B, C, or D is worth that to me. Well, then they're gonna fall out and bounce out right there, and that's fine.
Right. No, I'm just reading what Dr. V wrote. Here comes a no-show or a freebie seeker. Book them in the frozen food aisle.
Yeah.
So
So, there you go. If you
that
wanna
might be a,
exclude
that
if
might be
if
a
too
little
many people
cold.
are polluting your calendar, put a price up. That'll knock out most of the sort of the looky-loos right away.
Right. And I know people who do that. They'll put like a price up and return it if
Right.
they show up for their appointment, or put it towards a program that they came to
Right.
talk about.
And that's kind of that's a great example, right? We talked about don't increase the flow in one place
Mhm.
unless you're gonna increase it somewhere else.
Right.
But that's an example of the other thing you can do, right? You can, like, decrease the flow deliberately so
Mm.
that people don't get through or don't wanna go through to the next stage, and then that sort of backs up then what you should be doing is you want to move that. You don't want that to be the last thing before someone gets there, unless that's, somehow that's your style or your process. You want to start excluding people and better targeting people further up in your flow so that
Right.
they don't actually make it all the way down through. But worst case scenario, you block them at that last point before they manage to take up half an hour of your life for free and
Now
never do
this
anything.
this makes an interesting point. So, a lot of times people don't know the value of what you sell already. So Doc
Yeah.
said that my signature program is $25,000. So my time's valuable and so is yours. But oftentimes, yeah, having a value of something that you sell that's very high ticket or coaching program or whatever,
Right.
certainly does kind of establish, hey, don't waste my time.
Yeah. That language really borders on aggressive, so I would soften it a bit. But
The-
yeah, that's the
Yeah,
sentiment. That's the
the
meaning.
sentiment is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I said that too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say it that
Bit
way, but
harsh.
yeah,
Oh, by the way, there are people, and I went through this as I experimented with lines and still use it today. There are people who think it's sort of, kind of like a jerk to send people a calendar link and say, "Hey, so yeah, no problem. Use this link and get on my calendar." They just feel uncomfortable doing that. So if you're one of those people that feels uncomfortable doing that, what you do is you say, if you have a calendar link, send it over, and I'm happy to use it, or we can use mine, and then put in your link. 99 times out of 100, people will use yours instead
yeah,
of sending yet another email so that they can send you a link to their calendar.
right, right. No,
But at
we do
least you
that all
don't
the time.
sound like a jerk.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm so awesome. People have to like book themselves on my calendar.
In fact, that reminds me, I got to book myself on somebody's calendar that I
Right.
haven't done yet. So sorry about that.
So if you're one of those people who feels uncomfortable with it, you just prepend it by saying, I'm happy to use your calendar link.
Mhm.
Let's go ahead and send it over, or we can use mine and then put in your link, and that's it. Like, don't put anything after that. Don't qualify it. Don't say, like,
Yep.
sorry, I'm sending mine or whatever. Just say it. Happy to use yours, but if it's more convenient, here's mine, and then stop talking
Yes.
and send and click send. All right, that's about it. Theory of constraints. Fix the right things, understanding that you'll have to go back and it takes a while to optimize. It
Yes.
takes, increasing and decreasing and tweaking here and then watching the effect there. It takes a while to optimize your flow, your leads, your prospects, whatever. So you don't just work on the parts that you like or you think you're good at. That doesn't help anything in the long run. You have to work on all of it. It's an
Right.
intersection. Everybody needs to show up at the same time.
And be concise in your language of
Yeah.
your calendar. It is important.
Yes. But do have something on your calendar page. Don't
Mm,
leave people there stranded, not
come
knowing
on.
what to do. I mean, you'd think, well, they know what to do. They want to book. But no, a lot of people are going to land there and they're not quite ready. So you need to nudge them over to the calendar
I
part.
can't I can't tell you the number of Calendlies I go to where I, I'm like, what choice do I pick? There's like 5 choices here. There's no criteria for which one to choose.
Yeah.
And then I have to make the assumption of, oh well, we're supposed to be talking about this. And I would think it would take at least this much amount of time, but I shouldn't have to do that.
Or if you're so inclined and you're using a service that provides built-ins, I think Squarespace or Wix might
Mhm.
do it. Most of the funnel type websites do it. Is that Calendly will let you embed the calendar into another web page. So you put it into your own web page, and then you can put as much text around it and images and videos and stuff that you want. And the calendar is sort of widget is just right there on the page. They're operating on the Calendly, back end. It's surrounded by your stuff. If you want
Yes.
to go down that route, do that, but don't just leave people stranded. There's no point in throwing it over the fence and hoping that it's going to work.
So this is a very good point. I guess this might be a good one to kind of end on. So Dak was saying, or they have a very limited number of slots available. And I bump into that all the time. So there's good sides to that and there's
Yeah,
bad sides to that. The good side of that is obviously it shows that you're a busy person.
right.
The bad side of that is maybe you can't book in for something important for weeks. And sometimes I think the owners of the calendar need to find a better way to balance that out.
Yeah. What I
The other
we
way.
actually came across that in the call this morning with the folks in the Middle East. And
Mm,
I said, here are three options, right? You don't pay attention to the calendar much at all because it's just a tie-in into your CEO's calendar. And so, it might be a long time before anyone can book in.
hmm
Or you just expose the CEO's calendar. And so the available times are all over the map based on what other people have already managed to book and whether he's going to take half a day off or whatever. I said, either of those will work. None of them are optimal. What you do is you set up another calendar. Set up like a free Google Calendar. No one needs to know
hmm
it's Google Calendar. They always use Calendar. And you decide, every day at local time, 10 a.m., 1 p.m., 4 p.m., every weekday and you can have, two slots of 30 minutes each.
Yep.
And that way, like I know, okay, they do meetings every 10 a.m., every 1 p.m., every 4 p.m., their local time, and I'll just pick whichever one of those works for me. So I said there is no great answer, but the best answer, especially for a B2B environment, is to just have consistent times that are always
Mhm.
available, and then you work your other calendar around that. And
Right.
and also just put on your own. You don't have Calendly connected to your own personal calendar or work calendar, but no, on your own calendar you just have three recurring appointments with yourself, so no one else can book them, and you don't accidentally book them for those three slots. And then everyone knows, okay, it's one of these three slots every weekday. I'll go if it's not a holiday.
I know the one thing I'll do quite frequently is if I run into something where that person I'm supposed to meet doesn't have any spaces open, I'll just reach out to them and say, "Hey, you don't have any spaces open. It'd be great if we could connect a little sooner than this. What else might we do?" And
Yeah,
sometimes they'll say, "Oh, well,
and they're
I'll just."
definitely going to reply to you.
Yeah, they
Definitely,
can reply to
because
you.
you're someone who's not only tried to book and gone over that hump, but
Right.
couldn't make it, got pushed back, and are
Yep.
trying to go around it. I mean, that's a prospect that you want to talk to.
Yeah. So don't be afraid to do
So
that.
in your
And
copy, just say, if you can't,
that's a good thing.
reach me, do blah 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 blah.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Theory of constraints.
Park it there.
There you go. That's our rant for Monday. Park it there, as you say. All right, that's it for today. I don't even know what tomorrow's about. Wednesday will be website Wednesday again. Thursday will be Tools Thursday. Like, I love Tools Thursday.
We got to think of something that goes with Tuesday.
Yeah, Taco Tuesday, man.
Taco Tuesday. Terrible Tuesday.
All right, no one else needs to hear us jabber on.